A group of teenagers accidentally takes a photo together without realizing it will become their death sentence. The movie begins by introducing two beautiful young women named Sarah and Linda as they go through a box containing the belongings of Sarah's late mother. Sarah's mother passed away a long time ago, and while cleaning the house, Sarah discovered several of her mother's old possessions stored inside the box. As they examine its contents, Sarah and Linda come across an old Polaroid camera that once belonged to her mother. It turns out that the camera was manufactured sometime in the 1970s. Sarah then asks Linda to take a picture of her inside her mother's old bedroom using the Polaroid camera.
It's my mom's old stuff. It's a camera. We take it with this.
After the photo is taken, they wait to see the result, but before the picture has a chance to fully develop, Linda's mother calls and tells her to come home. With no other choice, Sarah walks Linda to the front door. Shortly after Linda leaves, Sarah hears strange noises coming from upstairs. She looks back at the Polaroid photo and is shocked to see a dark shadow standing behind her. Not long afterward, the power suddenly goes out, leaving Sarah terrified. She quickly heads downstairs to restore the electricity, but is startled when a ball suddenly falls from the attic, even though she is completely alone in the house. Curious and frightened, Sarah decides to investigate the attic. The moment she enters, she is violently attacked by an unseen entity and is killed on the spot. The scene then shifts to a young woman named Bird. Bird is shy, quiet, and tends to keep to herself. She attends Locust Harbor High School and rarely talks to her classmates. At school, she has a crush on a handsome student named Connor, but she has never found the courage to confess her feelings. To help pay for school expenses, Bird works at an antique shop owned by her friend Tyler. One day while Bird is working at the shop, Tyler arrives with a gift for her, an old Polaroid camera. The camera is extremely rare because it was produced in the 1970s. Bird asks Tyler where he got it, and Tyler explains that someone sold it for an unbelievably cheap price, which immediately caught his attention. Bird notices the initials RJS engraved on the camera. Fascinated by the vintage item, she asks if she can take it home. Before letting her leave with it, Tyler tells Bird to make sure the camera still works properly. At first, Tyler wants to take a picture of Bird, but she refuses because she feels embarrassed being in front of a camera. Instead, Tyler willingly volunteers to be the subject of the test photo.
Well, then you can try it out on me then.
Oh yeah.
As they wait for the picture to develop, Tyler slowly moves closer and attempts to kiss Bird. Realizing what he is trying to do, Bird quickly leaves the shop with the Polaroid camera. After arriving home, she loads a fresh pack of film into the camera so she can start using it. Not long afterward, Bird's classmate Casey stops by and invites her to a party being hosted by another classmate named Avery. Bird initially refuses because she dislikes being around large groups of people. However, Casey continues persuading her, hoping Bird will socialize more and make new friends. After being pressured repeatedly, Bird finally agrees to attend.
You coming to the party tonight or what?
I don't know.
Let people actually get to know you. Come on, please. Connor will be there.
I don't even have anything to wear.
No, I figured you'd be weird, so I brought you something.
Come on, it's a weeknight.
20 minutes, do it, because that's when our ride's getting here.
As night falls, Bird is picked up by Davin, Mina, and Casey.
That's a pretty realistic looking bird costume. All right, are you guys ready?
Yeah. Hi.
After a fairly long drive, they eventually arrive at Avery's house. The moment she enters the party, Bird feels uncomfortable because of the loud music. She refuses to drink alcohol and has no interest in dancing with everyone else. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Tyler is closing up his antique shop because it is already late at night. While cleaning the store, he accidentally discovers an old projector containing several vintage photographs. In one of the images, he notices a dark shadow lurking in the background. At first, Tyler assumes there is something wrong with the projector, but he quickly realizes he is mistaken. Without warning, a terrifying entity suddenly attacks him, killing him instantly. The story then returns to the party, where Bird is sitting alone. While she is by herself, Connor approaches her and starts a conversation. The two quickly get acquainted and begin chatting with each other. Connor is particularly impressed by the vintage Polaroid camera Bird is carrying. Not long afterward, Davin and Mina come over and invite Connor and Bird to take a group photo. However, because Bird is uncomfortable being in front of a camera, she chooses not to join them. Since she happens to have the Polaroid with her, she decides to take the picture herself. As she prepares to photograph Davin, Mina, and Connor, Casey suddenly jumps into the frame as well. After the photo develops, they examine it closely, but notice nothing unusual. A little later, Avery approaches Bird because she is fascinated by the Polaroid camera. She borrows it for a moment and takes a photo of herself. At that exact moment, the police arrive at Avery's house, forcing Avery to head downstairs. It turns out the officers have come to inform Bird that Tyler has been found dead under horrific circumstances. One of the officers, Sheriff Thomas, takes Bird to the police station for further questioning. Bird refuses to believe Tyler is dead since he seemed perfectly fine earlier that same day. Thomas asks whether Tyler had any enemies, but Bird insists that Tyler was a kind person and that she cannot imagine anyone wanting to harm him. Before letting her leave, the police ask Bird to contact them if she learns anything that might help with the investigation.
Why am I here?
Tyler's dead.
What?
You worked with Tyler Drew at the antique shop on Darby Street, right?
I was just with him. He was fine.
When was the last time you saw him?
Around 6 when I left the store?
Is he having any problems with anyone, anybody who might want to hurt him?
No, he seemed normal.
Later that night, Bird begins examining the photos taken with the Polaroid camera, including the picture of Tyler, the photo Avery took of herself, and the group photo containing Casey, Connor, Mina, and Davin. While looking at Avery's photo, Bird notices a dark shadow standing directly behind her. Even so, she convinces herself that it is probably just the shadow of someone walking by, since there were many people moving around during the party. Back at Avery's house, everyone has already gone home, leaving Avery completely alone. As she takes out the trash from the party, she suddenly hears strange noises coming from upstairs. When she goes to investigate, she comes face to face with a horrifying creature that immediately attacks her. The assault leaves Avery dead with her head twisted completely around. The following morning, Bird receives a phone call from Casey informing her that Avery has died in her own home. According to the police, Avery supposedly fell down the stairs, causing the fatal injury to her neck. After hearing the news, Bird checks Avery's Polaroid photo once again and is shocked to discover that the dark shadow has disappeared. Even stranger, the shadow has somehow moved into the group photo containing her friends. Terrified by what she sees, Bird throws the camera in frustration, but it seems as though some unseen force is protecting it, as the Polaroid camera cannot be damaged no matter what she does. Realizing that something was seriously wrong, Bird immediately went to school to meet up with her friends.
Look, see that thing in the group photo?
Wait, what?
This shadow? I saw it in Tyler's photo.
She showed them 3 different photographs: Tyler's photo, Avery's photo, and the group photo containing Casey, Connor, Mina, and Davin. Bird explained that the dark shadow had originally appeared in Tyler's photo. After Tyler died, the shadow moved into Avery's photo, and after Avery died, it somehow transferred into the group photo of her friends. Bird feared that all of them were now in danger. Despite her warning, none of her friends believed her and assumed that the deaths of Tyler and Avery were simply tragic coincidences. Davin, who had no belief in anything supernatural, decided to prove Bird wrong by burning the group photo. As the flames reached Mina's image in the photograph, Mina's hand suddenly burst into flames in real life, leaving everyone in complete shock. They desperately tried to extinguish the fire on her hand, but nothing worked. Fortunately, Bird quickly put out the flames on the photograph, and the fire spreading across Mina's hand immediately stopped as well. From that moment on, everyone became convinced that the Polaroid camera was cursed. Anyone photographed with the camera would eventually die, and any damage done to the photograph would also affect the person inside it. Because of the burns on her hand, Mina was taken to the hospital for treatment. Davin stayed behind to watch over her, while the others continued discussing the cursed camera. Connor asked Bird where she had gotten it. Bird admitted that she had no idea where it originally came from, and that Tyler was the only person who knew where it had been purchased. Connor then offered to drive Bird to Tyler's antique shop in hopes of finding information about the camera's origin. When they arrived, Bird told Connor to stay in the car while she searched the store herself. She was convinced that the ghost could not harm her because she had never been photographed by the Polaroid camera. However, shortly after entering the shop, Bird heard strange noises echoing through the building. Suddenly, the ghost attacked her. Fortunately, Connor arrived just in time and managed to save her from the creature. Bird was confused as to why the entity had targeted her, even though she had never appeared in a Polaroid photograph. Connor then examined the group photo more carefully and realized that Bird's face could be seen reflected in a mirror when she took the picture of her friends. Because of that reflection, Bird had unknowingly become part of the photograph, meaning the curse was now after her as well. Realizing the danger, Connor and Bird immediately rushed to the hospital. During the drive, Bird called Mina and warned her not to stay alone because the ghost could attack at any moment.
Mina, listen to me. You guys are in danger, okay?
Mina tried calling out for Davin, but he was outside the room and could not hear her. The ghost slowly approached Mina and murdered her on the spot. Sometime later, Davin returned to her hospital room only to find that she was gone. When he pulled back the curtain, he was horrified to discover Mina hanging lifelessly from above. The police immediately began investigating her death. Davin tried to explain that Mina had been killed by the curse of the Polaroid camera, but the officers refused to believe him. When Bird and Connor arrived at the hospital, Davin blamed Bird for Mina's death. He angrily argued that if Bird had never taken their picture at the party, none of them would have become victims of the curse. Bird could only apologize because she had no idea the camera was cursed. Connor did his best to comfort her and promised to help uncover the truth behind the camera's origins.
Are you okay?
No, it's my fault. I'm sorry.
While searching through the camera bag, Bird discovered an old police evidence tag linked to a homicide case from 1974. Suspecting that the case was connected to the camera, Bird and Connor headed to the public library to search through old newspaper archives. After searching through countless old newspapers, they finally found an article related to the case. The article described a man named Roland Joseph Sable, who had murdered 3 teenagers. Roland had once worked as a photography teacher at their own school, Locust Harbor High School. The report also revealed that Roland was married to a woman named Lena Sable. When Bird heard the name Roland Joseph Sable, she immediately remembered the initials engraved on the camera. The letters RJS were clearly the initials of Roland Joseph Sable, making Bird even more convinced that the Polaroid camera had once belonged to him. As they continued reading the newspaper article, they discovered that Roland had been shot and killed by police after being caught attempting to murder another teenager. They also found Roland's home address and learned that his wife was likely still alive. After obtaining the address, Bird and Connor arranged to meet Casey and Davin at a cafe. Still furious over Mina's death, Davin continued blaming Bird for everything that had happened. He even threatened to take a picture of Bird so that she would become the next victim of the curse. Bird explained that she was already cursed because her reflection had unknowingly appeared in the group photograph. The 4 of them then discussed what they should do with the information they had uncovered. Casey searched the address online and discovered that Lena Sable had moved away from the house years ago. The property was now occupied by a woman named Anne Faraday. Davin, still angry at Bird, suddenly grabbed the Polaroid camera and tried to photograph her so that she would die first. Connor immediately stepped in to stop him, and a struggle broke out between the two. During the commotion, Connor accidentally took a picture of Davin. Once the photo developed, the dark shadow that had previously appeared in the group photograph suddenly transferred into Davin's picture. This meant that Davin had now become the ghost's next target. Terrified, Davin immediately tried to photograph Bird, but Casey stopped him. Acting on impulse, Casey stabbed Davin's image in the photograph through the hand. Instantly, a matching wound appeared on Davin's real hand. At that moment, they fully realized that anything done to a photograph would also happen to the person inside it. If the photo was damaged, the victim would suffer the same injury in real life. Furious and completely out of control, Davin punched a police officer who had attempted to break up the argument. Because he assaulted an officer, Davin was arrested and locked in a jail cell for the next 24 hours. Bird and Connor begged Sheriff Thomas to release him, explaining that Davin was in serious danger. If he remained alone, the ghost could easily kill him. Thomas, however, refused to believe in ghosts or curses. He insisted that Davin stay in custody so he could learn from his actions and avoid causing further trouble.
You don't understand. He's in danger.
He's in danger. Okay, look, I understand this has been hard on you.
This camera belonged to a serial killer, and now it's killing our friend.
He lived in this town. His name was Roland Joseph Sable.
We make up stories. Urban legend.
Since Davin could not be released, Bird visited him in his cell and apologized for everything that had happened. Davin eventually apologized for his behavior as well. As Bird was leaving the police station, she received a phone call from Casey, who had continued investigating the woman named Anne Faraday. Casey had uncovered a shocking piece of information. Anne Faraday was actually Lena Sable. After Roland's death, Lena had changed her name to Anne Faraday in order to hide her true identity from the public. In other words, Anne Faraday and Lena Sable were the same person. The name Anne was simply a new identity Lena had adopted after Roland's death. The moment Bird learned the truth, she and Connor immediately headed to the address they had found. Shortly after they left, Davin began experiencing terrifying supernatural disturbances inside his jail cell. Trapped with nowhere to run, he slowly accepted his fate. Not long afterward, Davin was killed by the ghost while still locked inside the cell. Long story short, Bird and Connor eventually arrived at Lena Sable's house. Bird intended to return Roland's camera to Lena, hoping that doing so would stop Roland's spirit from tormenting them. The moment Lena saw the camera, memories of her late husband immediately came flooding back. She invited Bird and Connor inside and began telling them about her family's tragic past. Years ago, her family had lived a happy life. Lena was married to Roland, and together they had a beautiful daughter named Rebecca Sable. Rebecca was quiet and shy, very much like Bird. In fact, she rarely left the house at all. Everything changed when Roland and Lena gave Rebecca a Polaroid camera. After receiving the camera, Rebecca spent less and less time at home. She constantly wandered around taking pictures of anything she found interesting. She even brought the camera to school every day, almost as if she could not live without it. Because she always carried the camera around, many of her classmates began seeing her as strange. One night, 4 teenagers convinced Rebecca to attend a party with them. At first, she refused, but after being pressured repeatedly, she eventually agreed to go. Once she arrived at the party, Rebecca became the target of cruel humiliation. Her classmates mocked her, and some of them even used her own camera to take inappropriate photographs of her while she was undressed. Those humiliating pictures were later spread throughout the school, allowing everyone to see them. Unable to bear the shame, Rebecca eventually took her own life in front of her home. The police later showed the photographs to Roland. Seeing what had happened to his daughter filled him with overwhelming rage and hatred toward the 4 teenagers responsible. Determined to avenge Rebecca's death, Roland began hunting them down one by one. He managed to capture and brutally murder 3 of them. However, when he attempted to kill the 4th teenager, the police arrived and intervened. Left with no choice, the officers opened fire to stop Roland from harming the teenager. Roland died while still holding the Polaroid camera in his hands.
With punishing those 4 kids for their cruelty.
But Rebecca...
She couldn't handle it. His anger turned him into a killer. And he did. He wouldn't stop until they were all punished. He died holding that camera.
After revealing her family's tragic history, Lena showed Bird and Connor a photograph of the only teenager who had survived Roland's revenge. She asked Bird to find that man and finish what Roland had started. Bird became convinced that if she could find him and kill him, the curse might finally come to an end. She immediately called Casey and told her to meet them at their school. Bird and Connor then rushed to Locust Harbor High School and began searching through student records from 1974. They carefully examined file after file until they finally discovered the identity of the surviving teenager.
Sheriff Pembroke.
To their complete shock, the person turned out to be Sheriff Thomas. Neither of them could believe it. At that exact moment, Thomas suddenly appeared behind them with Casey. The group began discussing the Sable family and everything they had learned. Thomas asked them what Lena had told them about him and his 3 friends. Bird explained that Lena had accused Thomas and his friends of humiliating and abusing Rebecca Sable. Hearing this, Thomas was stunned and immediately claimed that Lena's story was completely false. Slowly, Bird pulled out the Polaroid camera and considered taking a picture of Thomas. However, when the moment came, she simply could not bring herself to do it. Since Bird could not bring herself to do it, Connor suddenly grabbed the camera and took a picture of Thomas before Thomas knocked the camera to the floor. Completely fed up with everything that was happening, Thomas finally revealed the shocking truth about Rebecca Sable. According to him, he and his 3 friends had actually been trying to protect Rebecca from the abuse committed by her own father, Roland. It was Roland who had taken the inappropriate photographs of Rebecca while she was undressed. When Thomas and his friends discovered what had been happening, they went to Rebecca's house and encouraged her to hand over the photographs as evidence. Their original plan was to report Roland to the police. However, Roland found out about their intentions and flew into a rage. He chased them down in his car and hunted them one by one to prevent them from exposing him. Thomas's 3 friends were brutally murdered by Roland before they could report the crimes. Thomas was the only survivor. When Roland finally tried to kill him as well, the police arrived just in time and shot Roland while he was still carrying the Polaroid camera. As time passed, Rebecca's mental condition continued to deteriorate. She was overwhelmed by guilt because Thomas's 3 friends had been killed while trying to help her. They had only wanted to save her, yet Roland had murdered them because of it. Unable to live with the guilt any longer, Rebecca eventually took her own life. Thomas then explained that Lena had rewritten the story to make it seem as though he and his friends were the villains. In his opinion, Lena was simply protecting her husband, even after his death. Just as Thomas finished telling them the truth, Roland's ghost suddenly appeared inside the school and took a photograph of Thomas. The ghost immediately tore the photograph apart, causing Thomas to die instantly.
Shoot him!
Connor quickly distracted Roland's ghost to stop it from pursuing Bird and Casey. Unfortunately, the ghost seemed far more interested in Bird. Bird and Casey rushed into a bathroom and turned on the hot water. The steam quickly filled the room, making it difficult for Roland's ghost to see them. Because Casey had been badly injured, Bird told her to stay hidden in the bathroom while she went to search for Connor. Before long, Bird managed to reunite with him. After realizing that Roland's ghost was targeting Bird, Connor came up with a plan. He told Bird to lure the ghost into revealing itself. Once Roland appeared, she would need to take a photograph of him and then burn the picture. Connor believed that destroying the photograph would destroy the ghost as well. Bird agreed with the plan and immediately led Roland's ghost into the school's basement. Upon entering the basement, she discovered a room identical to the place where Roland had once tortured Thomas. Bird carefully waited for the right moment and eventually succeeded in photographing Roland's ghost. As soon as the picture developed, Bird crushed the photograph in her hand, causing Roland's ghost to suffer broken bones throughout its body. To destroy him once and for all, Bird pulled out a lighter and set the photograph on fire. Moments later, Roland's ghost was completely annihilated. Bird then returned upstairs and reunited with Connor and Casey. In the end, the 3 of them were the only survivors of Roland's terrifying curse. In the final scene, Bird throws the cursed Polaroid camera into the ocean, bringing the story to an end.